And I'd just like to welcome all of you to the special meeting of the Santa Barbara County Board of Education. And we will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Bruce?
I would ask if you could all stand and salute our nation and our community. And please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Mr. Porter.
Thank you, everybody.
And now I would have the pleasure of introducing Jessica, who is our Spanish interpreter today, and se pronunciona interpretación al español para le. Pardon, my eyes are still adjusting. They were dilated this morning. So, para la reunión de la junta dirección. Jessica?
This is a bilingual message and it will be repeated in English. Este es un mensaje bilingüe y será repetido en inglés. Buenas tardes. Para facilitar el acceso lingüístico, proporcionaremos interpretación simultánea entre inglés y español. Mi nombre es Jessica y seré su intérprete esta noche. Si usted es bilingüe, no tiene que presionar nada. Si usted no es bilingüe en inglés y en español, tendrá que elegir el idioma en el que desea escuchar la interpretación. Si está usando una computadora, verá un icono en forma de globo en la parte inferior derecha de su pantalla que dice Interpretación. Haga clic ahí y seleccione Español. Si está usando la aplicación de Zoom en una tableta o teléfono, busque el menú de 3 puntos en la parte superior derecha de su pantalla. Haga clic en Interpretación de idiomas y elija Español. Les recordamos a los oradores que hablen uno a la vez y a un paso moderado. Good afternoon. In order to facilitate language access, we will be providing simultaneous interpretation between English and Spanish. My name is Jessica, and I'll be today's interpreter. If you are bilingual, you do not have to press anything. If you are not bilingual in English and Spanish, you will have to select the language that you wish to hear the interpretation in. If you're on a PC or laptop, look for the globe icon on the bottom right that says interpretation and select English. If you're on the Zoom application on a tablet or your phone, locate the 3-dot menu on the top right, click on language interpretation and then select English.
I think we cut her off on accident there.
A little too soon, but that's okay. All right. Now we have a roll call. Anna, please.
Okay, Mrs. Cardy.
Here.
Mrs. Daney.
Here.
Mrs. DeWord.
Here.
Mrs. Frost.
Here.
Mr. Howell.
Here
Mr. Porter.
and present.
Thank you.
Okay, at this time, I'm not aware of any changes to the agenda. And we will go around quickly to see if there's any comments. My eyes are still recovering from being dilated this morning, so pardon me if things are a little bit blurred. They will get better. Any other board comments today? Seeing no hands, we'll move on. Do we have public comment today, Anna?
Not through the form online. I don't know if there's anyone here who hasn't filled it out who'd like to comment.
We do have one, Bruce McRoy. Bruce?
Yes, thank you for your patience as I struggle with this technology. I just wanted to speak on behalf of Bob Niehaus and recommend him as a candidate for election to the board. I understand the board will be voting on that today. I have known Bob for well over 5 years as a friend and a business colleague. Very much of a friend. He officiated at my wedding about 5 years ago, and I think that was a very positive start to what has been a very positive relationship. I've also worked with Bob on a number of charitable and business related matters, and have found him somebody easy to deal with, and that he always brought a logical, thoughtful, and compassionate approach to the project. His focus was on what's a fair result for everybody and what's an equitable result. He also has demonstrated a great skill at being able to coordinate input from multiple sources, multiple diverse backgrounds with multiple viewpoints in his business life and in the charitable activities. And that's been very helpful. And education to Bob is one of his key interests. The entire time I've known him, and my recent wife, her children went to school with his children, and she attests that since I stumble because I don't want to demonstrate how long ago the children were, but I studied law with Moses, so he's been in Santa Barbara for a long time. He and his wife have always demonstrated an extraordinarily high interest in the education of their children and providing educational resources, effective educational resources to children at all grade levels and in all capacities, whatever their particular interest is. As an example, at the start, he mentioned in his application, but in addition, at the start of the COVID pandemic, he and I worked together to try to see if local churches could provide resources for students who are having difficulty learning remotely, to have a quiet place for them to learn, to go to their classes, and to have resources, instructors who would help them deal with the technology. I assume they were found the technology more difficult than I do. And last, I would just say, I really think Bob would provide a great deal of experience and expertise as a board member, and in an area where he is extremely interested, and I would say passionate, but not passionate to the point of my way or the highway. So I just would recommend highly that Bob be elected to fill the vacancy on the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McRoy. Appreciate your comments today. Any others? Seeing none, we will move on to our action item for today, which is to review the applications received to fill the board vacancy for Trustee Area Number 2 by provisional appointment, and review our next steps in the process. And actually, I'm going to turn the meeting right now over to Dr. Salcido, and for her to bring us up to date on some recent events.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good afternoon, everyone. It's really great to see all of you and come together after the board having received 7 really great applications for this Trustee Area Number 2. And I wanted to verbalize what I sent out to the board this morning in case you haven't had a chance to read it. I know that some of you have been traveling or on the road with different appointments. So over the weekend and at the end of last week, we did the SB CEO team did our normal vetting of what we would want to ensure that each of the applicants is qualified for the trustee area. So addresses and trustee area for the map previous to this one, as well as just other qualifications. What is somewhat more common knowledge is that when you have an employee of a K-12 school district, that employee is not qualified for the county board. Something brand new for me to learn was related to the community college employees and their disqualification for a county board. So Austin Payne and Craig Price are online. They had read through it, looked through Attorney General opinions and legal information, and will fill in some more information for us today. But I wanted the board to know not only the legal aspects, but I spoke with the two individuals, Dean Nevins and Lane Wheeler. And I would like to, after Austin and Craig tell us about the legal pieces, I would like to tell you a little bit of differences between Dean and Lane, because one is a full-time professor at City College and one is an adjunct, very, very part-time instructor at the community college. So that's area one. Area two is that one of the applicants, Alex is the first name, needs to re-register as a voter within for his address. And the address qualifies him to be a trustee for Trustee Area 2, and he is a registered voter, just not registered yet at that address. So we did contact him this morning. We have not yet heard back from him today, but wanted to let you know that we're communicating with that individual. And we believe that that re-registration is a quick process and could happen within the time frame of the board appointment. So with that, why don't I turn it over first to Austin to give us some of the legal background from what I said about the community college employees. Thanks, Austin.
Yeah, sure. So there's a couple of things going on here which make it a little bit more complicated at first blush, but when I did a little bit of research, it's pretty clear that an employee of a community college district can't also serve on a county board. The first is what Susan mentioned before, which is the education code specifically lays out that an individual can't be an employee of a school district and serve on the county board at the same time. And normally it would not necessarily apply the term school district to include a community college district. But the other thing that's going on here is called the doctrine of incompatible offices. That applies outside the education code context more broadly. And what we have are a bunch of attorney general opinions that talk about things like city council positions and municipal water district boards and things like that. And they basically go through and examine when two offices are incompatible. And those are particularly salient in this context because in order to do any kind of action to deem someone incompatible, you actually have to go through the Attorney General's office, and it's called a quo warranto process for the Latin majors, and they basically give you permission to file a lawsuit to remove someone from office, and they issue these long opinions describing the potential incompatibilities, and that's basically how it works. And so what we found when looking through these last year, there were a couple of these quo warranto opinions issued. One of them was dealing with a situation down in Imperial County where we had a community college district board member who was also serving on the county board or elected to serve on the county board. And the opinion went through all the different potential clashes in the code and determined that those would potentially be incompatible office. And they would have given the person who requested the opinion the option to go forward and remove them from the office if it hadn't been mooted out by some intervening events. So what we found out from that is that you can't be both on the board of a community college and on the county board at the same time. And then when you add in the element from the education code that Susan mentioned that talked about employees of school districts, we found out from looking at both these AG opinions and legislative history that the whole purpose behind that education code was to expand the incompatibility doctrine into the employee context. So to not just constrain it to officers and board members. And so when you put those two together, we know that there's significant clashes and overlapping duties that can occur from both sitting on a community college board and a county board. And then we add in that element from the education code that applies it to employees more broadly. And so with that, we determined that that was going to be an issue with the two community college applicants for the provisional appointment here.
Thank you, Austin. And I want to pause here as everyone is absorbing what you said and see if there's just questions for Austin. And then I will move on to share a bit about what I learned about their employment at the community college. But first, if there's any questions or clarification, I see Mr. Porter.
Yeah, Austin, that's very succinct, and that's more than we could tell just from the reference to the government code in the agenda or the ed code. But the government code, and I know it's not solely applying to this, does specifically exclude employees from the idea that you can't sit on two places at once. The government code's pretty short, but it specifically excludes employees under the term of officers. So does that have any bearing on your opinion? Or is there so much on the ed code and the attorney general side that that's kind of moot?
It would just add to the authority here. Yeah, I mean, the government code usually comes into play when you're dealing with officers and board members. But like you said, this is bigger than that based on the education code. And there's probably language in the huge amount of case law that comes out of the incompatible offices doctrine that expands it as well. So.
Okay, thank you.
Pausing again just to see if there's any other questions. And Craig, if you wanted to say anything more, I know you looked into this very, very deeply as well. Anything, Craig, at this time further?
Thank you. I don't have anything that needs to be added.
So why don't I move forward and say a little bit more as you're processing this information, and really appreciate the presentation, Austin, of the information and the good question, Mr. Porter. When I spoke with the two individuals, so Dean is fully a full-time, I didn't actually confirm full-time, but I'm making an assumption full-time, very deeply immersed as an employee at Santa Barbara City College. He lists that as his employer. For Lane, in speaking with him, he is an adjunct professor. And what he said was, it really depends, his employment. It really depends on whether or not enough students sign up for his course to then make the course a go. And so, for example, in the spring, he's in an education field. He needs 12 individuals to be part of his course. Last spring, there were somewhere between 3 and 6. I think it landed on 6. And so, therefore, the course did not go forward. So it really is a kind of, it depends as far as whether or not he would be employed. When we spoke about that, I said that I shared with him what we learned. I shared with him that the board would be discussing this today. And I shared with him that if the board were to move forward and interview him, for example, or want to get to know him, better in this context, that at some point he would then need to decide, not just it depends on whether or not there are enough students to make it a go, but even if there are enough students, he would then need to make a decision whether or not he would move forward being an instructor, that being part of this application process. In other words, if you accept being a county board member, you would not be able to be employed by the county office, the community college. So he said, absolutely, he understood that. And so I bring that information forward to you because he was interested in continuing the process should the board be interested in continuing it with him. So I'm just delivering that information, and I'm happy to clarify if I kind of fumbled over the narrative there.
So overly simplified, Superintendent Saucedo, candidate Nevins understands, given his full-time employment, he cannot be considered, and he understands that. And it would, perhaps it's a motion, but it would be appropriate to consider his application ineffective or withdrawn given his full-time status, correct?
Correct.
And then secondly, as to Lane Wheeler, I'm interpreting here, but nothing prevents us from including him among the 5 or 6, presumably 6 candidates for the position. And were he selected, perhaps, well, certainly were he selected, he would have to commit to not being an employee in order to take on the position.
That's
But
correct.
his preference is that he now be considered and defer his city college employment status.
I know that his preference is to continue. He was very, very interested and said he understood that should he be selected, he would, or be a finalist, he would need to make that determination, that he knew that he would have to make that decision. He didn't have that information when applying. So that's just a part of this. It would just be a part of what I said was I would go back to him after the county board had a discussion. I just wasn't sure what action you wanted to take with Lane Wheeler.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I see Michelle, your hand is raised.
Yeah, my question is, I don't know how adjunct professors are treated. Are they considered part of the faculty? I mean, you may not know the answer to this, but so they may not be paid for teaching the course, but are they receiving benefits and they have to relinquish the benefits as well?
I see Mrs. Frost. Did you want to respond to that?
Well, I can only speak on behalf of Allen Hancock College, which is also a community college. And the term adjunct faculty replaced the term part-time faculty. And they have classes, as he said, that only go if they reach a certain volume level. Otherwise, they don't. They have their own group on campus. They're not part of the full-time faculty group. They are eligible to buy into some benefits, but that depends on whether or not they're currently teaching or not, and if they're in, have a class, but they're not guaranteed a salary unless they have a class.
And just to sort of piggyback on that, I can tell you that the incompatibility has gone so far as to include substitute teachers in school districts. So we can expect that even being as an adjunct or something like that, that incompatibility would still exist.
And I see Mr. Price. Craig, go ahead.
And we can answer the question directly because we also serve as general counsel for Santa Barbara City College. As Mrs. Frost indicated, adjuncts, whether they're denominated temporary or part-time employees, are employees of the college. And it would not be enough for Mr. Wheeler to simply not teach a course. He would have to resign his employment.
Oh, that's a very helpful clarification. It's not I'm in or out. It's all or nothing.
Correct.
Okay, that's helpful clarification.
And he will need to make that decision, as Dr. Salcido said, after he has a chance to think about it and when she gets back to him with respect to the process going forward.
All right, so I will hand it back to you, Mrs. Frost.
Okay.
Given that information. Thank you.
Dr. Salcido and I have had a little preliminary getting our heads together around how to approach today's meeting and the steps to try to get some logical progression or sequence in the items that we need to deal with in order to move forward. And one thing that I'm going to start with, because it's very clear and it's very simple. So let's start out with something clear and simple. We all know that the questions that we developed for the interviews are public record and that they're available to anyone who would seek them out. So the question was whether we were going to actively provide them to each of the candidates selected to interview, or if we were going to leave it up to the candidates and their own initiative to seek out the questions if they should choose to. So that's our first issue. Now, I do want to footnote that by saying that under no circumstances should the board facilitate a candidate getting the questions. Even if they did that for all of them, we shouldn't deal with one of them. We shouldn't deal with any of them until this process is over. So that's a given. On the question of do we want to actively distribute those questions? Yes or no? Thoughts?
Yeah, I do.
Bruce?
Yeah, so we should not be in the business of playing gotcha. It's like, oops, gotcha. You should have looked, somewhere where they wouldn't ordinarily think of looking. They don't necessarily know our processes. So I would be in favor, since they're available publicly, I think we should actively give them the questions and say, these are going to be the questions.
Mary Beth?
I think it's incumbent upon us to make sure that the process is as fair as possible and to provide parity in issuing the questions in advance of the interview seems to me to be in the interest of fairness. So I would concur with Mr. Porter.
Any dissenting thoughts on that? I'm sorry I'm looking around like this. You're all in different rows on the screen for some reason. Usually you're kind of together, but you're spread out all over. So it's hard to see you all. Joe, did you have something you wanted to say?
I keep getting dropped. I'm not sure what's going on. I think I just want to be sure I understand what I'm voting on before everyone is frozen again. It is whether or not to make the questions asked.
And he froze up again.
Just as you were asking your question, Mr. Howell.
The question is just yes or no, should we actively distribute the questions to all candidates who are chosen to interview? Just
understood. Thank you.
Okay.
Madam Chairman, if I may, I'm Bruce McCoy. I'm just going to excuse myself. Thank you for letting me participate, but I'm going to go out so you can have freedom to talk about whatever you want to talk about. Thank you very much.
Mr. McCroy. Okay. I don't have a first or a second, really.
I see
Right.
Mr. Price. Yes. Great.
I'll second.
Craig had, okay. We will now discuss, Mr. Price.
I don't know that you could or should vote on this, since the issue that you're talking about is not agendized for action. I think you can, in effect, take a straw vote by consensus.
Okay. That would, I understand. All right, this is a straw vote, hands only. All those in favor? I think I see you all. And any opposed? All right, then we will distribute the questions to all candidates who are selected to interview. One done. Woo. Okay. The next item is the process to determine who we're going to interview. We now have 6 eligible candidates, kind of, to consider. And let me just briefly lay out some of the options that we have. The first option is to have all the applications go to the organizational committee and let them select who to interview. Another option is at this board meeting to do a screening of applicants and decide whom we would want to move forward for interviews. A third choice would be at this board meeting, we decide to move all 6 applicants forward for interviewing. So I believe those are 3 options. And I think the best way to handle it, again, as Craig, well, actually, Craig, would this be considered part of the reviewing of the application? Oh, review the next steps? Do we need a motion, or can we do a informal polling on this?
On this one, the agenda is sufficiently clear that you're covered. So if you want to take formal action, you may.
Thank you, Craig. Appreciate that. Okay, so Mary Beth, did you have a question?
Before we move toward either polling or voting, there would be 2 provisions that I would ask for a little more qualification on. One, what is the drop dead deadline for Alex Niles to be registered as a voter in this area before we advance his application forward? And 2, would it be prudent to have a follow-up conversation with Lane Wheeler to let him know that, as Craig had indicated in Austin, it's kind of an all or none situation before he advances in the process as well?
Those are very good points, Mary Beth. Very good points indeed. Dr. Salcido, how would you like to address those? How would you does legal counsel today have in their information access to the final day to register for the November 8th election?
I will jump in and say that the interaction that our office had with county elections related to the re-registration of Alex and his address seemed to indicate that it was a very simple process that he would simply have to re-register. So it just seems like it'll be, a within a few days type of thing. But I do want to pass it on to Craig and Austin, see if there's any date upon which we need to have that done for the board's process. That's question number 1. So let me go there first.
If I understand correctly, it may be that you can register to vote very close to the election, but for the board's purposes, you need to have that taken care of right away. So it may be that you want to give this individual a deadline for acting, and for example, within a week or something like that. But first, wanting to double check with county elections to make sure that they could process a change of address within that specified time frame.
Then it seems we would need to have verification from, Joe's got his hand up. Thank you, Joe.
I apologize. I keep going in and out, so I thought I'd say something early and somebody, if I drop out again. I think I would propose as a motion, because these variables we just don't know about. I would propose, my motion would be that we interview all 6 qualified candidates, subject to number 1, for candidate Wheeler, he be advised of what we've learned today. And if he interviews on Friday, we'll give him that opportunity, but he is in effect giving the statement that were he selected, he would have to terminate his employment relationship based on the law. And number two, as to candidate Alex, we would like to see confirmation of his necessary voter registration or assurances that it's going to be completed, so that we're interviewing perhaps all 6 candidates, knowing if they're selected, they can serve. So it's choice number 3 that President Frost mentioned. With 6 candidates, we interview all of them. We worried if we had 15 candidates, how do we do that? 6 is manageable within the 3-hour period we have set up on Friday. And I think we would like to know, for our benefit, for the candidates' benefit, if we're interviewing them on Friday, if selected, they're ready to serve. End of a long motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Michelle's going to second. Discussion? No discussion, huh? Interesting.
Well, just to fill the void, I'll say something.
Thank you,
Yes.
Bruce, for
Yeah,
coming
so,
to my
yeah.
aid.
Yeah. So yes, I mean, yes. I mean, I totally agree. We should interview all 6 of them, with the caveat that if we hit whatever the deadline is, where one individual hasn't resigned his position officially or produced evidence that he has re-registered at his current address, which is always the problem in Isla Vista, then they're out anyway, no matter what. But I think that's a great way to move forward.
I'm wondering if the elections department can confirm by Friday interviews whether Alex's re-registration has been processed or not. That would sure at least solve that before we talk to him on Friday.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Maggie.
I would say that we would need to know by Thursday, since we're meeting at 9 o'clock on Friday.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Just so we know before we interview him.
Right.
And we have such a big task before us that I think the simpler we make it, the better. For him, for Lane Wheeler is pretty straightforward, the in or out. For the candidate, as far as registration, we're not trying to trick him, but I think if Superintendent Salcido lets him know, and if by Thursday he represents to us that he has done what is necessary, I don't think we have to get elections to say he's in or out. He lives there. He's going to swear that he lives there. He's going to do it. We just want a representation from him that he has done it or is in the process of doing it, so we're not wasting his time or our time. It's not.
Oops. It's not us.
That he has done or is in the process of doing it.
Okay.
I mean, that's my reading of it.
Okay, Mary Beth?
Further, if we could just kind of articulate the process beyond Friday's interviews, we have from 9 to 12. We will interview all 6 if they are indeed eligible as of Friday morning at 9 a.m. Otherwise, we're going to have holes in the schedule. Again, I wonder if it's worth going back to Lane Wheeler and just letting him know, because it sounded to me like he was interested in proceeding with the process, but may not be fully aware that if chosen at the end of the process, he has a big decision to make. It might give him the opportunity to reconsider, and he may decide depending on how he's making his living, if he chooses to opt out of City College employment. And then secondly, will we be deliberating on Friday, or will we carry that over until the next week? That might be helpful to
All
know.
right. Again, Dr. Salcido and I have gone through some different scenarios about Friday. And yes, we have from 9 to noon. It was my request that we schedule 20-minute interviews with a scheduled break of 5-7 minutes before the next interview. So basically a half hour, 20 minutes for an interview, 10 minutes for a break, and then we go on for the next interview, which means we could only interview 6 candidates if we do one every, well, actually, that would take us till about 10 after 12, because we probably, we're going to need a few minutes at 9 to get started. So we'll probably not exactly start at 9 o'clock. So somehow, if we've got enough wiggle room to possibly go past noon, we could do 6, but we could not deliberate. So it would mean that we would just be like a jury that would zip it shut, stop thinking about it, go home for the weekend, and we would come back Monday. Well, that's a question too. We would have another special board meeting a week from today to deliberate and make our decision. And that could be Zoom or in person, which we can decide later. So with 6 candidates, there will be no time for deliberation on Friday. Even if we cut it down to 5 candidates, there would be a half hour for deliberation, which, knowing us, probably wouldn't be enough. So we would have to delay then and gather on Monday. I would like to weigh in here on 2 things. One is, I am fine with accepting Alex's word for that he has re-registered. Not that he's going to, but that if he says, yes, I have done it, I have filed it. Lane Wheeler, before we schedule an interview with Mr. Wheeler, I think he needs to know if he is chosen, he would have to resign from his college position, and that he needs to tell us which way he would go on that. Not just tell him that that's what he would have to do, but get a commitment from him as to what he would be willing to do. I really don't want to go through this whole process, pick somebody, appoint them, and then have a problem that we could see coming. We may very well have problems that we don't see coming, but we know there is a potential for a change with Mr. Wheeler, and I would just be looking for a commitment on his behalf before we schedule an interview.
If I may interject, I'd be very glad to have conversations with both individuals and getting that verification by Thursday evening before Friday's scheduled interviews. So happy to do that.
So I don't know if that would require changing the motion to, we will extend an interview opportunity to all 6 candidates on the caveat that before Friday, Dr. Salcido will have discussions with Alex and Mr. Wheeler to get confirmation that Mr. Niles has re-registered and that Mr. Wheeler would resign if he is chosen.
I agree. Thank you, Judy, for the clarification.
I don't know if that's a modification that Joe would be willing to
No,
make to his motion?
It's a clarification that I totally accept.
Okay, all right.
I second the motion.
The re-motion. Questions? Any hands? No? All right, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed? Okay. Oh my goodness, where are we on my agenda? All right, we're going to set up interviews with 6 candidates. Dr. Salcido will figure that out and get the information we need from Mr. Niles and Mr. Wheeler. And okay. As I said, if we get all 6, Mr. Niles and Mr. Wheeler both say to go ahead. We'll interview them Friday, but no deliberations, and we will need to meet Monday. So my first question, just to keep this as simple and clear as possible, would be thoughts on Monday being on Zoom or in person? Thoughts. You know, I'm concerned today because Mr. Howell is having problems with his Zoom, and I would not want that to happen during deliberations. Michelle has had problems in the past. Keeping that in mind, what's your call?
My preference would be that we meet in person Monday week, Monday week for deliberations. I think it helps us communicate better.
Okay. I'm just going to ask, are there any opposed to
Michelle has a
having?
question.
Oh, I'm sorry, Michelle.
I had a question. Is there any reason why we can't have the deliberations during our regular board meeting? And then we could decide and take a vote and then seat that person at the board meeting. Is that a possibility?
We'd be doing the deliberations before the board meeting.
It's a possibility, but it would mean that the candidates wouldn't know if they were selected or not until that day. So if they want to be there to be, well, they have to be there to be sworn in and everything. And okay, 5 of them would be going home unhappy. I mean, it isn't a problem, Michelle, with the concept at all. I think it just, when I think through it, I stumble on that part of it.
The logistics, yeah.
I didn't.
The logistics.
No, Michelle, you're muted.
I understand. I didn't work through.
Okay. All right. So any objections to deliberating a week from today in person in Santa Barbara?
Madam Chair, I think I saw Mary Beth Cardy have a comment or question, so just wanted to interject.
Oh, good. Thank you for helping me spot these things.
Have some intermittent.
Oh,
Sure if you
yeah. She's freezing up
Can you hear
too.
me?
Kind of.
Breaking up. I'm just saying.
Maybe you could put it in the chat, Mary Beth.
And as she considers doing that, Mrs. Frost, if you wanted to talk about the time of that meeting.
Yes.
At this point, I think we had 9 o'clock held. Anna, is that right? 9 o'clock on Monday, or the time could be determined right now?
Yeah, we actually didn't set a time.
Okay, we didn't set a time. Excuse me.
You want to try it again, Mary Beth? Nope, not getting anything. Oh, we have a chat. Here we go. Oh, turning off video can also help with the internet. So if you need to turn off, there you go. Joe, you might try that too, although we love seeing your smiley face, but that does sometimes stabilize the network.
And I see Craig Price with his hand raised as well, Madam Chair.
Oh, thank you. Hi, Craig. What's up?
While the board has been discussing the motion, my assistant called the elections office and learned that if the applicant were to go into the elections office, say sometime tomorrow, that the official change of address would be posted the following day. So he has plenty of time. And the suggestion is so that you don't necessarily have to get into a question of taking one's word for it, that Dr. Salcido or whoever is going to contact him, ask him to make that change tomorrow. And that way you will know.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Price. Appreciate it. Okay, Mary Beth, did you want to, you're still on mute. If you unmute, are you still there?
No.
There she is.
Did you have a question for me, Judy?
No, I thought you had a comment to make.
The only comment I had was the 29th from 9 to 12 a.m. is open, and I think I had already entered that into my calendar. So I think we had some discussion about that being the time that we would deliberate.
Okay.
I just wanted to further say that I was available during that time.
Oh, great. Thank you. All right, then the time for Monday. Do we all agree on 9 to 1 or 9 to 12?
Yes.
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 And Bruce,
Yes.
where'd he go?
Different
Oh, there he
line.
is. Now he's down in the lower. Everybody's moving around. I don't know. Okay, then that's done. Okay.
Mrs. Frost, this is Susan. As you're
Yes.
gathering your thoughts here and doing a fantastic job and sharing, of course, all the details, I put in the chat a draft agenda for Friday in terms of the times. And, I think many of us, we've gone to, opportunities to present, and sometimes those get adjusted. So I'm sure people could flex 10, 15 minutes one way or another. But
Yeah.
here's a proposed 6-person interview schedule with 10 minutes in between, 20 minutes each, and gives a little bit of flexibility for both starting and convening that meeting, as well as sometimes you end a little shorter, sometimes you go just a couple minutes longer. I know everyone would try to keep it to 20 minutes. So wanted to just put that up there for you. And it confirms what you were saying before, which is that if there are 6, there would be no time for deliberations. If there are 4, that may be an opportunity for the board to deliberate and decide that day.
Yeah. If we know that there's only 4 in time to schedule them, the first 4, then we would have an hour, which we could determine at that point if an hour is enough or not. Okay, then. Okay, we talked about that. Talked about that. Okay, honestly, I think that's all that was on my agenda. Am I missing something completely? Joe's got his hand up. Hi, Joe.
In terms of, I think it's really helpful not to take a lot more time, but to really talk through logistics. I, for one, totally understand it's a public meeting and there are interviews. Other candidates could be physically present. We talked about that. Bruce, I think, had a very appropriate way to graciously say we'd like to respect whatever Bruce said. So, but that's an issue, but they're interviews. So my questions are, number one, because they're all going to have the questions, we are all listening, but it seems to me we decide now, is the person asking the question, President Frost, they're going to know the questions ahead of time. They don't necessarily know the order, but just to get the logistics down on both Friday and Monday. On Friday, it seems to me we ought to decide right now when we walk in the room, roll call, pledge of allegiance, and at 9:10, candidate one comes in the room. How does that happen? I don't have a strong feeling one way or another, but I think we decide in the minutes we have now, does President Frost ask the questions each time? We know the questions are the same. I think the ground rules are that we're trying not to have, if a comment they say triggers in my mind a follow-up question, what are our thoughts on that? We don't want to have a 30-minute interview and then a 10-minute interview. We just transparent, and we want equity and fairness. And so how do we achieve, who asks the questions, and what are our ground rules on the questions? Then I have other thoughts on Monday, but maybe others can share their thoughts about process on Friday.
This is a quiet group today.
It seems to me either President Frost as president of the board would be appropriate. Chair Daney might well be, because of the org organization committee. I think either one can do it. In some ways, if there are 6 of us and there are 6 candidates, we could take turns. It seems to me that's kind of artificial, and we ought to have the same person ask the questions of all of them. I just want it to be fair, and I want us to know when we walk in on Friday what we're doing. So the question is, who asks the point in my mind, or who asks the questions, and do we agree that it is not appropriate to ask follow-up questions?
Actually, in the notes I have from our board meeting, we said that the board members may ask candidate follow-up questions to clarify or expand responses on the application or interview questions. We said we'd do that. Now, obviously, we need to monitor the time and be very careful about our time. But if something comes up and a board member isn't clear about something, while the candidate is there being interviewed, is the time to resolve that, not wonder about it during deliberations. So I think after whomever, and Maggie or I, either one, asks the questions and that part is finished. Well, actually, each question asks a question. If there's a follow-up question, a board member needs to raise their hand. They'll be called on. They can ask the question, and that's it, and move on. At least that's just my thought on it.
I agree, Madam Chair. That was my understanding, that we would only ask follow-up questions on statements on the application or the answers to the standard questions that we're asking all 5 or 6 candidates.
Mm-hmm.
Because I have questions, as I read through the applications, I wanted some expansion on some of the statements that were made.
Okay. So I think we would start with the questions that we have that we developed for all candidates and get through those and do any follow-up questions having to do with each one of those, and then ask the board members if they had any other questions. And those would, so we can watch our time, make sure we get through all of the questions we want to ask all the candidates, and then we can ask any application questions.
Agreed.
Okay.
I think the most important yeah, the most important point is that those follow-up questions be any can
You're cutting out, Mary Beth.
hear me now.
I heard that. You said the question would be if any
A follow-up.
questions.
Yeah, be. No, can't hear.
No.
Okay,
No.
I'll put it in the chat.
Okay, that'd be great. Michelle, any comments?
Yes, I think that the follow-up questions need to pertain to either the application or what was said. So no new questions that are related. So I agree with that. I have a question about, is there going to be some sort of a interview summary sheet provided by the county office for us to be able to, you know, kind of keep track? Because if there's some sort of a.
I think, Dr. Salcido, if we could have staff develop one where we have room to put the name of the candidate and then question 1 and then room for us to take notes and question 2 and room for us to take notes so that we could use this as our, everyone would use the same thing as their note taking. Is that the kind of thing you were talking about, Michelle?
Some sort of summary sheets, since we're going to be deliberating then on a Monday after the interviews, so we can, you know,
Right, where we can have everything.
Well, I think it would help with continuity if we all work to the same form so that we, I agree.
I'm a little worried about that, though. I don't think staff should be in the position of having to interpret what the candidate said and write a
Oh, no,
summary.
No.
Bruce, halt. No, the staff is just preparing a template with blank spots in it and handing it out to us. We will use it simply as our way to take our notes.
I heard you say that. That's not what I heard Michelle saying, though.
Oh, no, that's what I was talking about, a template.
And we're good. As long as we're using our own notes and not that of staff.
Right.
No.
Craig is waving his finger at me.
I just want you to all know that doing it this way means that all of these notes are susceptible to a Public Record Act request. There's no personnel privacy protection for.
Can I do it and send it out to the board or bring it for the board to use?
Whatever it is that is sent out from the county office or from any board member that is in the form of a template is subject to a Public Record Act request, which may be fine, but I just want you to appreciate that that is, you know, a distinct possibility.
So Craig, can I, just for clarity, the template or our note taking becomes public?
Nobody is going to know whether or not you take notes or scribble down little bits and pieces of information. That's not to say that we might not get a Public Record Act request, but if you have this formalized process, semi-formalized, that you're talking about, where there's going to be a template sent out either by staff or by Mrs. Frost, then it's almost an invitation for somebody to ask for it, as opposed to board members, if you wish to, taking notes on your own. I don't express a preference, but I just don't want you to be surprised later.
Question, I don't think, can you hear me?
Yes, Joe.
Okay. Am I next in line? I don't want to interrupt if somebody else is up.
If you're on the same topic.
Yes.
Okay.
So I really appreciate Craig and Austin's information on so many of these items and the nuances and things that frankly are somewhat counterintuitive, but they're here and it's very helpful. I think to maximize the efficiency for our individual interviews, but to minimize the possibility of things going off the rails, notes, etc. I think what would be really helpful is if when we show up Friday morning, we have a hard copy of the application and attached resume for each of the candidates, 4, 5, or 6 candidates. We have that in sequential order along. Number 1, we have the schedule of the interviewees. Number 2, we have a hard copy of their application and their attached resume. And number 3, we have a hard copy of the interview questions. So we all have the information, that all of which is now public information because it's all been posted, I believe. So we all have that. The extent to which people couldn't read my writing if they wanted to, but the extent to which we want to make mental notes or reminders or whatever we can, but we do not have a template that for each candidate that is, I think that's a great idea, but I now realize why it's problematic. So we have no template. We have one set of questions, so we know what they are. We have complete information as submitted for each candidate with a schedule, and that is the interview packet for each of us.
Michelle, you had raised a good point, a tool, an aid. I've always had at every interview I've ever done, that kind of template. So what are your thoughts on Joe's suggestion? You just went mute.
Sorry about that. I don't mind submitting notes. I think almost there's a possibility any notes that we take during the interviews could potentially be a public record. So I think we just take really good notes, and I don't have a problem with it. But if the board, I will, whatever the board prefers, no template or template. I just think for efficiency, for organization, I think a template is a kind of a nice way, because in terms of, I've done searches before and I'm comfortable with that process. So I'll just yield to whatever the board, but I would just also like to hear if Austin or if Craig thinks that potentially our notes could be a public record as well, especially when you are submitting, providing all this information that Joe had suggested. Thank you.
Craig.
Under the Public Records Act, there is an exception for records that are not kept in the ordinary course. So that obviously means if at the end of the selection being made, board members could be expected to throw away their notes, then those notes would not be reachable, and they may be properly gotten rid of.
That helps.
How is this process, Craig, different than me taking notes at a standard board meeting, and either I take them home and keep them in my binder, or I turn them into Anna to be shredded? How is that different?
If you turn them into Anna to be shredded, those notes obviously are not something that you keep in the ordinary course. And even if you hadn't turned them in yet, because a PRA request was received immediately after the meeting, but that was your practice, they would not be producible. But if you keep them in your binder, then even though that's your personal binder, just like with your personal emails and just like with your personal text messages, anything that relates to county board business that's not otherwise exempt is disclosable.
Okay.
Bruce.
So the notion, I don't get the notion of the template anyway. I mean, the template to me would just be a piece of paper with the predetermined question at the top,
Right,
a bunch of blank space underneath it.
right.
Well, so I can do that.
Yes, you can.
Why
all
would you
can.
send that out to everybody?
We all can.
I just don't get it.
Well, there was a request that perhaps it could be provided. So we will be self-sufficient and provide our own note-taking procedure. And like Joe, I'm just really glad my handwriting is so bad. I'm the only one that could possibly read it. So, all right, where were we?
Did we decide?
Oh,
And
we were back to Friday and
Joe's request for a
how we were
package.
going to start. Informally, Maggie, I would be very happy if you would ask the questions for all candidates, if you're okay with that as
I'm
the
fine
head of
with
the
that.
organizational committee. Okay.
Absolutely.
And I will defer to Maggie then to call on board members for follow-up questions. And I would ask that board members raise their hand to be acknowledged in order to do follow-up questions.
Okay.
Any objections?
Good plan.
All right, and then on Monday, we're gonna start at 9 o'clock. Oh, I know what I wanted to say about Monday. If I would prefer, my choice, again, from experience, would be that with 6 candidates potentially, we come Monday prepared to say who each one of us, who our top candidate is and who our number 2 candidate is. And then we're going to write down all those names and then we will start deliberating. I will ask for each of you to state your rationale for choosing a person or deciding on a person as your number 1 choice, or what made it your number 2 choice, and we'll get right to business. We had not discussed, nor had we intended to actually codify anything other than what's in the application as far as experience, requirements, background, anything like that. So we are free to use our own judgments on what attributes we are looking for in those candidates to join the board. And we're not going to codify it. We'll just, that's up to each. That's why we're here, to make those decisions. So that would be my plan for Monday. And the result of the deliberation would be that we would narrow down the number of candidates that we were considering, and then ultimately all decide on one. Susan, do we need a backup?
Well, let me thank you, Judy and Mrs. Frost, for outlining what you were thinking and a potential process for the board. I know Craig had his hand raised, so let's see what he had something to say, and then I know the board may have comments on this as well. Craig?
Okay.
Never mind, cancel that order.
Okay.
I totally concur with Mrs. Frost's suggestion for the process on Monday. I would like to expand that we come prepared to defend 3 candidates, 1, 2, and 3, because we do have 6. And there are 6 of us that are going to be going through the selection process and the determination. So that would be the only change I would make to that suggestion, Judy, would be that we come with our top 3.
That could end up not reducing the pool at all. That was just my thought. We could end up out of that with not having made much headway.
Well, we run into a similar situation even with your top two.
But there'd be fewer. There'd be fewer to deal with. Of course, if we all had the same third choice, we could eliminate them, I guess, and get it down to a few smaller numbers.
It was merely a suggestion. I'm not hard and fast to that. It was just
I appreciate that. Other thoughts on 2 versus 3, Joe?
So I suspect others are having the same sort of conceptual problem I am. All of us have interviewed individual candidates, board members, etc. Doing it in public is awkward because in no way do any of us want to say anything demeaning about any candidate, and I'm not saying we would in a private room, but there is an awkwardness.
I agree.
It's unnatural to do a process that's as important as this and is as personal as this in a public forum. I think I have confidence in everyone. We're going to do the right thing, but it's just awkward. It seems to me, starting with 2, and I hadn't really thought about this, 2 versus 3. Everyone comes with 2, and I'm replaying in my mind what President Frost suggested. We go around the room and I say, candidate A for this reason is number 1. My second is candidate B. If I'm the fourth to speak, and I totally agree with comments about candidate A, I say, that's why he or she is my top candidate for reasons stated. Number 2 for this reason. And we then, this is not ranked choice voting, if that's what it's called, that I never have truly understood like they do in Maine and elsewhere. So I don't know that it's an algorithm of who gets the most votes, but it's a straw poll among 6 board members of who shakes out as the top candidate or the top 2 candidates. And then we refine it from there. We refine it from there. So all we can do is have a process at the outset and all be prepared, which I think is a great idea, prepared to have our top 2 and to say why they're our top 2. And we all listen to one another and we see where we are at the end of that. And it may be that we're nowhere and we start over with the top 3, or we ideally can hone in on a close call between a couple of candidates and we go from there. So I think there is no perfect suggestion. I think starting that way is good, and charging each of us with being prepared after our Friday interviews to think long and hard who our top 2 are and why really challenges each of us to make a tough decision, preliminary decision. So I like the process as suggested.
Michelle?
I agree with Joe. I just wanted to be prepared. What happens if we 4 of us have agreed that we all have the same number 1? Does that automatically make that person is that the choice? Or we can deliberate and that person could lose that number 1 spot? Just be prepared that could happen. And that's where this awkwardness comes in, when you can have you come in with your number 1 and then and 4 of us agree. That could potentially be a problem.
Yeah, and that's why I say I do not envision that if 4 of you all agree on your number 1, that automatically that's the end of discussion, because it could be that more than one of us, it's really close between 1 and 2, and it could go either way. So no, I wouldn't. My choice would be not to cut off deliberations at that point, but to give it another shot around the board for comments on those 2. Now, if the comments all come back that, the people that didn't have them as number one say, actually, I agree with you. That sounds good. Then, we'll see how it goes. I don't expect that it will necessarily be unanimous. I hope it is. We finally come down to one candidate. But we won't know until Monday.
And at the end, are you done, Michelle?
Oh, I'm finished.
Okay, so I think it's really helpful to just think out loud how it's going to work. And so if we do the top two, we each discuss, who knows, nobody can predict how that's going to come out, but it could be that one of us says, based on what I see, I hereby nominate candidate number 3 for the position. There's a second, and if there's a majority vote, not to cut off discussion at all, but at the end of the day, we have to have a vote. It'd be great if we all see the writing on the wall and say, why don't we make this unanimous? Nobody has to do that, but ultimately we need to come out of the meeting with a majority vote having selected the appointee, correct?
Right. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Mary Beth gave us, all right. And I did see that Susan, not only can we not hear Mary Beth, but she seems to be able to chat. So she forwarded this message through Dr. Salcido that she was reiterating that any follow-up questions during our interviews be for clarification purposes only, and not to give any candidate undue advantage over other candidates, which, yes, Mary Beth, if I forget to remind everybody of that on Friday in that 10 minutes we've got before we begin, I'll count on you, because we will be in person and we can talk. I will count on you to remind us of that. Okay, so that's what I see for Monday's deliberation. Any more business for today?
Thank you, Madam President, for walking us through this. It was not easy, and you did a very nice job.
And I still can't focus. Oh my God, it's been 4 hours, 5 hours, and I still have trouble. Of course,
Go take a nap, Judy. Go take a nap.
I think I'm getting a headache from trying to focus. Okay.
If I may interject just for
yes,
a quick
please
second.
Rescue me.
Oh, no, you're doing fantastically. No rescue needed at all. I just wanted to reiterate. So we will ensure that each of the applicants get a copy of the questions. I will have conversations with the 2 applicants we discussed today and ensure that there's responses by Thursday evening, and it could impact our schedule on Friday. I'll just make sure to communicate with the board as I know. We will put together hard copy packets for each of the board members for Friday's interview so that everybody has all of the materials on hand, not a template, but obviously you have something to write notes should you wish. We have yet to finalize the meeting room and meeting format at this point, but I know that all of you would want the individual to feel welcomed, not part of this fishbowl. And so we'll do all that we can to have the individual feel welcomed and included into this board meeting. I know that our chair, in this case, the chair for the board, would likely ask any other individuals who are there as part of the open board meeting, but are not being interviewed and would be interviewed at another time to politely excuse themselves from the meeting, although it's not required. And that in between Friday's meeting and Monday's meeting, that there wouldn't be any discussion amongst applicants and board members and all of that. so that we can come back to have the board's deliberation on Monday at 9:00 in person is what I'm understanding that'll be.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you for summarizing that for me. I really appreciate it. Okay, then I think we're good to go. Dr. Saucedo, will you stay on for a minute?
Absolutely.
Okay. So any closing comments or thoughts? Going to start with Bruce. He's been very quiet today.
I don't know if that's a nice thing to say or not, but
It's just an observation.
No,
It's not a judgment.
I'm very, very comfortable with all of this. I think we're set up for success here, and everybody's clearly given a lot of thought to this, and I think it's awesome. So I look forward to meeting 4, 5, or 6 very, very interesting and qualified people on Friday.
Thank you, Bruce. Michelle, any final thoughts?
No, I think this is a great process, and I'm really excited to meet these 6 very great candidates.
Yeah, great. And Ms. Dane?
No, good meeting, Madam Chair, and I think we're all clear as to our roles and responsibilities both on Friday and on Monday.
All right. And Ms. Cardy?
No, well done. This is great. I'll see you on Friday and again on
And we
Monday.
heard all of that.
It's stabilized. This is ridiculous, but here we are. Sorry about all of that.
And Mr. Howell?
I think we did a good job in knowing that the person asking the questions will be offended if I wear flip-flops. That's Maggie. I will not.
I won't either then, Joe.
I'm doing a personal reminder for closed-toed shoes on Friday. Thank you.
Okay, and I need a motion for, we will meet again then on Friday at 9:00, place to be determined. And we will have our interviews as we talked about the schedule, so plan accordingly. Do I have a motion to adjourn today?
So move.
Second.
And second, and all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye, mate. And opposed? We are done.